Every single water purification product you have ever bought, the tablets, the pump filters, the squeeze pouches, the UV pens, was designed by an engineer who has never been thirsty. Not truly thirsty, not 3 days without water, lips cracked to bleeding, tongue swollen in your skull, thirsty. But the mountain men of the American West were, routinely, savagely, and they solved the problem without a single piece of purchased equipment, without a chemistry lab, without instructions on a plastic package. These men moved through landscapes that would kill you in 48 hours and came out the other side clean and alive. Their water strategy wasn't primitive. It was a complete, integrated system built from reading the land itself. Everything they knew has been quietly shelved, laughed off, and replaced with products that leave you one critical failure away from disaster. And nobody told you. Picture this man. He is 28 years old in 1826, standing at the edge of the Mojave Desert in what is now Southern California, looking east at roughly 600 miles of sun-hammered sand and alkali flats between him and safety. His name is Jedediah Smith, the first American to reach California overland, the first to cross the Sierra Nevada and the Great Basin in a single season, and by any honest measure, one of the most competent outdoorsmen who ever lived. He has no water filter, no iodine, no satellite phone. What he has is a Mojave Indian guide who knows where every hidden spring, every shallow seep, every ancient water stop sits along a desert trade route that has been maintained by indigenous nations for thousands of years. And he has eyes that have been trained over years of hard living to read the land the way you read words on a page. Smith's party moved from water source to water source with the calm, methodical precision of an engineer following a blueprint, because that's precisely what they were doing. The blueprint was the landscape itself. Cottonwood trees clustered in a canyon bottom meant water within 6 feet of the surface. A convergence of animal trails leading in one direction meant a permanent spring ahead. Dry riverbeds with damp, dark patches in their lowest sections meant that digging with your bare hands for 2 or 3 feet would find water pooled above the clay. These were not guesses. These were not hunches. These were field-tested, failure-proofed, multi-generational techniques passed directly from Native American guides who had been navigating that land for 10,000 years before any European set foot on it. So here is the question the rest of this video will answer. When did we decide that a plastic squeeze bottle with a $40 cartridge was superior to 10,000 years of accumulated landscape knowledge? And what exactly did we lose when we made that trade? Before we get into the mechanics of what these men actually knew, I want to ask you something directly. Think about the last time you were truly without reliable water. Camping, hiking, a power outage, a situation where the tap didn't work and you weren't sure what to drink. What did you do? Did you reach for something you'd bought? Did it work the way it was supposed to? Drop your answer in the comments below, because what you're about to discover is going to completely change how you see that moment and every moment like it that's coming. Now, let's talk about the modern version of wilderness water management, because the contrast is going to make you angry, and it should. Walk into any outdoor retailer today and you will find an entire wall dedicated to water purification products. Pump filters, gravity filters, squeeze filters, chemical tablets in 3 different formulations, UV sterilizer pens, personal straws, each one marketed with confidence, each one with a list of specifications, each one solving a slightly different problem than the one next to it. And here is what none of those products will tell you on the label. Chlorine tablets, which remain one of the most widely recommended emergency water treatments, cannot kill Cryptosporidium oocysts. That's not a fringe concern. Cryptosporidium is one of the most common causes of waterborne illness in North America. You follow the directions, you wait the 30 minutes, you drink the water, and you can still get violently ill. UV sterilizer pens, effective in theory as require clear water to work. Turbidity, meaning any visible cloudiness or sediment in the water, blocks UV rays and dramatically reduces effectiveness. The directions will tell you this in fine print, but most people using a UV pen in a real outdoor emergency are not pulling from a crystal clear mountain pool. They are pulling from a murky stream after a rainstorm, and the pen is giving them false security. Meanwhile, the mountain man kneeling beside that same stream 200 years ago would not drink from it at all. He would move upstream, find where the spring fed the stream before sediment entered it, and drink there. No product required, just observation. The modern outdoor industry has handed you a collection of individual tools and called it a system. It isn't. A system requires layers, redundancy, and an understanding of the source. What they sold you is a product, fragile, dependent on conditions, and engineered for a clean water scenario that outdoor emergencies rarely deliver. Here is the part that should make you angry. The outdoor industry knows about these failure modes. They are documented in peer-reviewed public health literature, referenced by the World Health Organization, and quietly disclosed in the fine print of product manuals. But the solution they offer is never learn to read the land. It is always buy the next product. There is no profit in terrain literacy. There is significant profit in replacement cartridges. And here is what that means for you specifically. You bought the filter, you followed the instructions, the water still made you sick, or the filter clogged at the worst possible moment, or the batteries in the UV pen died. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you blamed yourself, your preparation, your knowledge, your competence, but the problem was never you. The problem was that you were handed an incomplete system and told it was complete. The mountain men didn't have that problem because they were never sold anything. They built their understanding from scratch, from the ground up, the hard way, and it worked every single time their lives depended on it. Let's get into the specifics. What did these men actually know, and how did it work? The first layer of their system was source selection, and it was the most important one. Jedediah Smith's desert crossings succeeded not because he was superhuman, but because he understood a principle that modern hikers routinely ignore. Not all water sources carry equal risk. Springs are categorically safer than streams, and streams are safer than standing water. This is not folk wisdom. This is geology doing the work of filtration. When water percolates down through rock and soil over days or weeks before emerging as a spring, it passes through what functions as a massive slow sand filter. Layers of stone, clay, and sediment that physically trap particles, bacteria, and protozoa. The World Health Organization's bank filtration data confirms what Smith's survival record demonstrates. Properly situated springs can achieve what engineers call a 2 to 6 log reduction in bacterial contamination, meaning they remove between 99% and 99.9999% of the bacterial load compared to surface water from the same watershed. Smith didn't know the terminology. He knew the outcome. He drank from springs. He avoided standing pools. He survived. Osborne Russell, whose Journal of a Trapper documents 9 years in the Rocky Mountains from 1834 to 1843, and stands as the most detailed first-hand account of mountain man daily life, wrote about water with the specificity of a man who understood that his choice of source was a life or death decision. His entries read like a navigation log, organized around water. Every camp, every day's march, every resting place is anchored to a named or described water source. He was not recording this information for posterity. He was recording it because water was the axis around which every other decision rotated. The second layer was terrain reading, and this is where the system becomes extraordinary. Mountain men were trained by experience and by Native American mentorship to read the landscape as a map of its own hydrology. The presence of certain plants was not decorative information. It was diagnostic. Cottonwood trees grow only where their roots can reach permanent groundwater, typically within 6 to 10 feet of the surface. A stand of cottonwoods in an otherwise dry canyon was not scenery. It was a well, already located, already tested, already proven reliable by the trees themselves. High willows told a similar story. They are water dependent at the root and will not colonize dry ground. Bright green patches of vegetation in a hillside of brown scrub indicated subsurface seepage. Even the geometry of the land communicated. Water drains toward the lowest point of a basin, and in the desert, the lowest point of a dry lakebed or arroyo will hold moisture far longer than its surroundings, accessible just below the surface. During Joseph Walker's 1834 expedition across the Nevada desert, documented in exhaustive detail by his chronicler, Zenas Leonard, the party's horses did something remarkable. When the men were lost and disoriented after 2 days without water, the horses became uncontrollable. They broke formation, surged in a single direction, and refused to be redirected. The men, desperate enough to try anything, I let them go. Within a mile, the horses had led the entire party to a spring that no human eye had detected from the surrounding terrain. This was not magic. This was biology. Horses can detect water by scent from distances of several miles, and the mountain men knew it. They used their animals as instruments. Think of it as a living compass calibrated to the specific frequency of survival. The third layer was what happened when the source was questionable and the alternative was dying. Here is where the picture gets darker and more instructive. The historical record is clear that mountain men boiled water, not because they understood germ theory, which wouldn't be established until the 1860s and 1880s, but because fire was their constant companion and hot liquid was how they ate. Coffee, which Russell mentions repeatedly throughout his journal, was made from boiled water. Stews and broths were cooked in boiling water. The antimicrobial effect of boiling was incidental to the practice of eating hot food, but it was real. A rolling boil sustained for even 1 minute kills essentially all waterborne pathogens at any elevation where mountain men operated. The World Health Organization confirms that even at elevations above 6,500 feet, where water boils at around 89 degrees Celsius rather than 100, the temperature still exceeds the thermal kill threshold for all known enteric pathogens within the standard boiling window. The mountain man who ate hot meals was, without knowing it, running a water treatment plant 3 times a day. There was also the matter of silver. Frontier trappers and cavalry soldiers alike dropped silver coins into water barrels during long overland journeys, a practice that recorded soldiers and traders considered basic common sense. This was not superstition. Silver ions are oligodynamic, meaning they are toxic to microbial cells at concentrations far too low to affect humans. They penetrate bacterial cell walls and disrupt the enzymes that allow bacteria to metabolize and reproduce. NASA later validated this exact principle when designing the water purification system for the Apollo spacecraft, using silver as the primary bactericide. The mountain man, dropping a coin into his canteen, was performing oligodynamic sterilization. He just didn't have the vocabulary for it. The fourth layer, and this is the layer that the modern outdoor industry has most thoroughly erased, was Native American hydrological knowledge. Jedediah Smith's success crossing the Mojave in 1826 was not the achievement of a lone genius. It was the achievement of a man smart enough to hire Mojave Indian guides who led him along a trade route called the Mojave Trail, a network of water stops: Butte Spring, Indian Well, Rock Springs, Marl Spring, Soda Spring, spaced across the desert with the precision of a pipeline, each one identified, maintained, and passed down through oral tradition for hundreds of generations. The distances between stops, roughly 60 to 70 miles, were calibrated to what a loaded party could travel in desert heat between reliable water sources. This was infrastructure. It was just infrastructure that existed in human memory and landscape knowledge rather than in concrete and pipe. The Hohokam people of what is now southern Arizona built something even more explicit: more than 700 miles of irrigation canals over more than 1,000 years, canals engineered with trapezoidal cross-sections and calibrated water velocities that maintained flow without either silting up or eroding their banks. When Jack Swilling arrived in 1868 looking to settle the Salt River Valley, he didn't build a water system, he rediscovered one. The city of Phoenix sits on top of Hohokam engineering. The mountain men who passed through this landscape were not building water systems. They were navigating through the ruins and living networks of water systems that had already been built, tested, and perfected long before they arrived. So, why did we abandon this knowledge? Why did we replace 10,000 years of accumulated landscape literacy with a wall of plastic products that fail in exactly the conditions they were designed for? 3 reasons. Speed first. Terrain literacy takes years to develop. You cannot package it, certify it, or sell it in a box. A filter can be manufactured in an afternoon and shipped overnight. Speed always wins in an industrial economy, even when it loses in the field. Cost second. Teaching someone to read a landscape requires a teacher, time, and repetition. Manufacturing a filter requires a mold, a material, and a production line. The economics are not complicated. Third, and most critically, the development of municipal water treatment infrastructure in the late 19th century made source selection feel unnecessary. When clean water came out of a tap, the skill of finding and evaluating clean water in the wild began to atrophy almost immediately. Within 2 generations, it had essentially vanished from civilian knowledge. And the outdoor industry stepped into that vacuum, not with education, but with products. Here is the hidden cost. Every one of those products creates a dependency. You need the replacement cartridge, you need the battery, you need the clear water. Strip any one of those requirements away and the system collapses. The Mountain Man system had no single point of failure because it was built from layers of redundant, independent, tool-free knowledge. He could lose everything he was carrying and still find clean water. Can you say the same? So, here is what you can actually do with this right now at whatever level you're starting from. If you want the easiest possible entry point, change where you look for water before you change how you treat it. When you're in the field, always move toward elevated ground to find a spring before descending to drink from a stream. Look for cottonwoods and willows and move toward them. Let your dog or horse lead when you're uncertain. They are using sensory systems that predate any product on the market. Choosing a spring over a stream or the head of a stream over its lower reaches is the single highest leverage water decision you can make. No equipment required. If you're ready to go deeper, learn to build a layered gravity filter from natural materials as a backup to whatever you're carrying. The method is sequential. First, allow turbid water to settle in a container for 30 minutes, then decant the clearer upper layer. Second, pass it through a vessel layered from top to bottom with coarse gravel, then fine sand, then crushed or granulated charcoal from a hardwood fire, not briquettes, hardwood, then fine sand again as a final polishing layer. This replicates in miniature the geological filtration process that makes springs safer than streams. It will not produce sterile water on its own, but it will remove the turbidity that defeats UV treatment and reduce the bacterial load before boiling. Then boil. 1 minute at a rolling boil. That combination, gravity filtration followed by boiling, is a multi-barrier system. That is what serious water treatment looks like. And if you want the absolute minimum, here is the quick test for any water source in the wild. Find the origin. Trace the water upstream to where it comes from. If you can reach the point where it emerges from the ground, a spring seep, a hillside vent, a rock face weeping moisture, drink from as close to that origin as possible and avoid everything downstream of animal activity, human settlement, or standing pools. That one principle, source selection over treatment, is the core of everything these men knew. It costs nothing. It requires nothing. It just requires that you look before you drink. Jedediah Smith was not a primitive. He was not lucky. And he was a man who had been educated by the hardest classroom that has ever existed, the American wilderness at the limit of human endurance. And he graduated by staying alive when every reasonable person expected him to die. He crossed the Mojave Desert, the Sierra Nevada, and the Great Basin in the same season. He found water in places where water should not have existed. He did it without a single piece of gear that you could buy in a store today. And when he finally died, Not of thirst, not of hypothermia, not of starvation, but at a waterhole in Kansas in 1831, ambushed at the moment of finally finding what he'd been searching for. It was a reminder that the most dangerous moment in water survival is not the drought. It is the split second of relief when you finally let your guard down. The knowledge these men carried was never lost. It was traded away, traded for convenience, for speed, for the comforting illusion that the right product would solve what only understanding can solve. And you have been paying that price in failed gear, in waterborne illness, in the creeping anxiety of never quite knowing if what you're drinking is actually safe. Ever since, we are digging this knowledge back up piece by piece, expedition by expedition, from the people who paid the highest possible price to develop it. Subscribe because we are just getting started, and tell us in the comments, what forgotten skill do you want us to investigate next?